Story 1 Wonderful. No palm wonderful, no pistachios, no almonds. The Resnicks are almost fully responsible for the privatization of water rights in California. They also own Fiji Water, which has privatized water in Fiji, making it so the residents who live in Fiji pay more for water. Story 2 Starbucks. My district was union busted while I was an employee long before people started boycotting them in late 2023. Since then, I haven't had a reason to go to Starbucks. Story 3. I worked there and my coworker had a seizure. The shift lead refused to call an ambulance because she didn't want him to sue Walmart. So she dragged him into a storage room and left him there. I clocked out early and called his boyfriend for him. If the anti-union brainwashing videos didn't sour my attitude towards that company, the way they treated that poor guy did. Story 4. I quit my job at Wells Fargo because of their cases of opening fraudulent accounts without customer approval and have also probably talked 5 or 6 people out of accepting a job there. Forget Wells Fargo. Story 5. Hobby Lobby and Chick-fil-A. There are others that I do not care for, but these two are the only ones that regularly come up for me. Both have locations near me and sell things I like. Story 6. Robinhood. As soon as they pulled the garbage of putting their hedge funds before the little guys, I migrated any investments to a new brokerage account. Story 7. I try my hardest to avoid Nestle. They own a lot of brands, so it's hard sometimes. But for sure, I will never buy Nestle bottled water. They are despicable. Story 8. Try to avoid as many as possible. I buy almost everything secondhand, if not refurbished, then from smaller brands that share information on sourcing. I don't eat much processed food, no fast food. I don't really own much. I don't eat meat. I mostly shop at the farmer's market or buy vegetables and fruit from the supermarket. I try to get things of good quality so they will last. I don't have subscription services. Occasionally I have to, but I try my best not to spend money on creating more and more waste. But if I'm in a bind, I'll go wherever. I've been on road trips where Walmart is pretty much the only option. Story 9. Samsung. There's a documentary on YouTube about how unsafe work practices led to the deaths of several employees, which they denied for 20 years and eventually admitted. Shine self-explanatory. Nothing that cheap and quick is made without exploitation. My list is long, but these two will do for now. Story 10. I won't patronize Walmart because of the overall poor quality of their merchandise and food even compared to Target, because of how they treat their employees, and because of how predatory they are to small businesses in mid-sized geographical areas. I avoid Nestle and Monsanto because they are both straight-up evil, though that's hard to do, especially with Roundup-ready wheat being essentially the only wheat farmed in the United States. Story 11. I have been trying very hard to buy as little as possible from large corporations in general. Besides all the damage they do politically and beyond, you're sending your hard-earned dollars outside your community. Supporting local businesses is always better as long as you can afford it. There are a few exceptions, but BlackRock and other private equity groups are major shareholders in nearly all the major brands you're familiar with. We should all stop buying into their game. Story 12 Meta. In my view, social media are responsible for chaos in societies, riots, and the rise of unhinged propaganda. It is blood money they have. I don't want to touch it. Story 13. I have never used Amazon. I have always been an eBay guy. Now, Taco Bell and McDonald's are dead to me. They changed the price of the Cravings box from $6.49 to $11.49 overnight, and McDonald's took away the McDouble from the buy one, get one for a dollar deal, which has been like that for at least 5 years. And right before around COVID-19, they were running specials of 2 for $3. Story 14. The one I haven't seen mentioned yet is Baker Seed. Territorial seed is an alternative I like. I'd also like to mention that in many cases, being able to choose the companies you do business with is a privilege. Story 15. Nike. Not for wholly why you think. If you listen to Mary Kane or read books by Lauren Fleshman or Kara Goucher, all professional runners, you will see how absolutely terribly Nike treats its female athletes. Story 16. Tesla, Hobby Lobby, Chick-fil-A, Facebook told them they were a plague on the nation when I canceled. Anything written by the Potter woman, I did use to read her mysteries, The New York Times, the Washington Post. I'm sure there is more. I've picked my poison. I still use Amazon. Story 17, I really want to, but there was an image recently that showed a few corporations such as Nestle, and then showed the web of companies they own, their subcompanies, and so on. It is almost impossible at this stage to do a real boycott of many things. Even if you buy milk from a local cooperative, how do you know the agricultural products and machines they use aren't produced by a problematic company? Story 18, Nestle obvious. Tesla obvious. Tally's, a seafood company in my country that's unfair to workers and massively anti-union. Any business I know to be owned by the exclusive brethren because they're even worse than the Talley family, and use that money to hide sexual abuse, domestic violence, and try to influence elections secretly. Cadbury, because the private equity firm that bought them, Mondelez, is unfair. Any real estate firm that also has a property management wing that is unfriendly to tenants. They're never going to get my money. Story 19. I found out today that Apple complains about taking a part out of another iPhone to fix your current phone. Get your hand off it, Apple. Let people fix their phones. Story 20. I don't buy anything or try not to as much as possible from the company I work for or any of the other many companies they own. I like the money to be a one-way trip to my wallet. Story 21. Starbucks for the rumor about not donating to veterans. I heard that was fake, but I refuse to double-check. Worst-case scenario is I save money buying an energy drink instead of a large fancy coffee. Story 22. Nestle, if I see it in time. These folks are everywhere. Tesla, obviously. But that also has a lot to do with their quality, even before Musk went full propaganda. Starbucks. Story 23. My mom won't buy BMW or Volkswagen due to Nazi ties, and is wary of other German brands. My wife's family won't buy anything at Walmart because of the way they treat workers. I don't really have any ethical hang-ups, but I have referred to my buddy's Tesla as a swastika and probably would not buy one for myself in the future. Story 24. I stopped using Klarna entirely due to laying off people for artificial intelligence. Toys R Us, Coca-Cola, and Starbursts are all on my list to avoid due to lifeless artificial intelligence commercials. Story 25. Plenty, especially the ones that exploit workers, overcharge for basic services, or prioritize profits over ethics. Some are just universally disliked for a reason. Story 26. Very personal but Cracker Barrel. My best friend lost both her parents as a high schooler and worked at a Cracker Barrel during high school. She asked for Mother's Day off, so she wouldn't have to watch lots of families celebrate their mothers as a 17-year-old girl, and was told, "It's not like you will be doing anything else that day. It's not a corporate thing, but I just never ate there again." Story 27. I don't care for their union-busting activities. Their whole business model is just to greedily bully local government and their suppliers for a better deal. They make billions of dollars driving every local business to shut down, then pay low wages with terrible benefits. The old racist Henry Ford had the great idea to pay his workers enough so that they could afford to buy the product they manufactured, helping create the American middle class. Walmart, on the other hand, pays so poorly that their workers have to get supplemental nutrition assistance program benefits just to be able to afford to shop at the cheapest store around, which is Walmart. Story 28. The last few months, I've been boycotting Coca-Cola. I'm a semi-professional cartoonist and do commissions on the side. Seeing how their holiday advertisement last year was made with artificial intelligence, I have no interest in supporting a company that took a job away from human artists. As an artist, I'm a nobody, and my boycott isn't going to make any difference. But I feel like I have to draw a line in the sand somewhere, you know? Story 29. I do not buy any products that are not cruelty-free. If I am not sure of something, I check online to find out if it is or not. All my cosmetics and household cleaners and supplies are being converted to only cruelty-free products. Story 30. Bojangles. The owner of the locations in Roanoke, Virginia, bought a property next to a wildlife rehabilitation center and sued them to try to get them to stop operating. He is scum, so no Bojangles for me. Story 31. Nope. Tried it and it was miserable. Once you look into things, you'd pretty much barely be able to breathe air. People are so pretentious about their beliefs that they turn into hypocrites. Like how most people say a company is bad, but then buy from another company that is bad as well. What is funny is people using Amazon to find alternatives when they are a bad company as well. Story 32. Anything Murdoch. Fox, Sky, Binge, newspapers. I'd rather take my own eye out with a spoon than put money in his pocket. Also Tesla and Starlink. I have a general rule which is don't fund evil Nazis. Story 33. Walgreens stopped allowing Plan B pills on their shelves. I have not purchased one item from them since then. Neither have my husband and daughter. Story 34. Years ago, I would spend 1 hour a day reading my Twitter timeline. I haven't checked my timeline in 2 months, and I'm not missing it. The place is boring and infected with cryptocurrency scams and bots. Now add Elon Musk to all this, and I can't, in good conscience, continue to use it. I don't know if I'm going to delete my account or just leave it, but I'm not going to be active on it anymore. Story 35. And guess what? None of these companies even care. Just a comment on the futility of it. All that happens is you do get some feeling of doing right for yourself. Hopefully, it's worth something. Story 36. Sleep deprived and on a long car ride. But here are a few larger ones. One of the worst corporations, in my opinion. Nestle. I could go into much more detail, but I believe water is a human right, they do not. And they harmed babies in Africa. Look up the 1977 Nestle boycott. Walmart. They destroy local businesses in rural areas and absorb any wealth. They cannot pay their employees well and mistreat them. McDonald's. Once again, they do not pay their workers well at all, and the food drop for the Israeli army is something I will not forget. Also, I have been turned off from them for years now after a friend mentioned the sanitary issues in detail from when they worked there. Companies I have pulled back on recently. Amazon. I do not think I need to explain, but union busting, worker treatment, and unsustainable business practices. Target. Positioned themselves as a progressive company, then decided it was too hard with the current administration. Companies I thought lesser of, like Publix, even stood by their diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. Story 37. I quit all Blizzard games after finding out about the misogyny and horrible working conditions. It's a shame because I was really enjoying Overwatch, Hearthstone, and Diablo, and I would occasionally return to World of Warcraft really hard every couple of expansions or so. I check periodically to see if they've corrected the issues, but it seems they just carried on, so oh well. I doubt they missed my money. Story 38. Yeah, there are a few I avoid because of shady stuff, bad labor practices, harming the planet, or just being straight up dodgy. Fast fashion is a big one because of how they treat workers, and some technology giants make me uncomfortable with all the privacy invasions. I cannot always avoid them completely, but I try to be mindful. What about you? Story 39. Loblaw, Canada. A friend worked for them, so I had an inside scoop on what was going on. So unethical. And they do not care about anybody, customers, or employees. Story 40. Vodafone Altus Nos for Portugal internet service providers. Anything that has a betting website as a sponsor on merchandise. Anything that has a clear indication of dropshipped rebranded product. Peugeot, Renault, Mercedes, Audi, if made in the last 5 to 7 years. Bamboo Labs 3D printers, Sony's PlayStation Store. Forza Games by Turn 10 Studios. Anything Ubisoft. Story 41. I got screwed over a few times by Amazon, so I don't buy stuff from there anymore. I used to kind of feel guilty about using them every time I read about how their workers are treated, but they were just so damned convenient until, of course, they weren't. I don't use Google because they are dishonest about their "don't be evil" motto. They take user data and profit from it. And then, once they're done taking the data, they kill off the apps that people were using without warning. Not really sure how you build a business off the Google platform when they could tear the services you depend on out from under you at any moment. There are others, but I think that's the main two. Oh, also Wish, Temu, etc. Using slave labor to sell low-quality and sometimes dangerous knockoffs to people is wrong, and they're harming the environment for pennies. Story 42. I know that this might be a bit generic white left-wing, but Nestle is such a dodgy company. We even have a shop nearby that sells heavily discounted Nestle products, and I avoid them. Story 43. I moved away from Westpac Bank because they're pretty evil even by the standards of Australia's Big Four. Harvey Norman is run by right-wing businessman Jerry Harvey. Here he is extolling the virtues of authoritarianism. Harvey Norman also claims that the labor shortage needs to be the government's top priority to fix, while he faces legal challenges about how toxic his work environments are. Storage group Kennard Self-Storage is owned by Sam Kennard, who is the key donor behind political lobby group Advance Australia, essentially pushing Make America Great Again politics in Australia. I would also boycott Gina Reinhart for her bankrolling the Institute for Public Affairs, the most destructive lobby group in the country, basically our version of the Heritage Foundation, but I don't buy coal, so I don't have any means to do so. Story 44. Nissan. They were happy to have a foreigner come in and bring the company back from going under. They were also happy to throw him under the bus while doing nothing about the Japanese executives who also broke the law. Story 45. I try to avoid Nestle, but I think they removed their logo from many of their products ever since it became mainstream knowledge that they are unethical. And I can't be bothered to keep all their thousands of subsidiary companies in mind. Another kind of company I try to avoid are local businesses that are obviously linked to organized crime or money laundering. We have quite a few of these in my area, and they are all easily identified. They are always run by extended family members of the same Arabic family. They only accept cash. They are running strong with lots of luxury cars in front, but no customers ever to be seen. I also canceled my Amazon Prime membership, which I had for 15 years, about a year ago, and try to order as much as possible from other sellers. Sometimes the stuff is a little bit more expensive, which I accept. Often the best price isn't even on Amazon. But sometimes there is no alternative to Amazon. Generally, I noticed that we are ordering much less stuff since we canceled Prime, which I find very refreshing.